And welcome back to the Hoops HQ, everybody. As promised, we have the head coach of the nation's #1 ranked team, undefeated Arizona Wildcats, Tommy Lloyd. Tommy, thanks so much for taking the time. We know how busy you are. I imagine when you're undefeated and ranked #1, you may get a little bit busier, especially with requests from guys like us. I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, so let me ask you this question. Unbelievable win in Provo, Utah, at BYU. It was 64-45 with a little under 11 minutes to play. You guys are up 19 points, and you barely survive to win by 3. The win is great, but what did you learn about your team in those 11 minutes that makes you want to focus and get better at and say, hey, we got to really tighten this up if we're going to go next level?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing you take a step back and you got to compartmentalize. You were able to get up 19. So what happened? And so obviously you got to be a pretty good team and you have to do a lot of good things to do that. And then secondly, of course, you look at what happened down the stretch and use it as a teaching tool. But, I think it would be, it's naive to think that you're up by 19 in Provo and you're going to win by 32. It's just, I haven't quite figured this game out yet. But one thing I have figured out is teams mount these crazy comebacks, and is it the urgency? Is it complacency? I mean, probably all these things play into it. So we'll look at it. We'll look at it from both lenses and learn from it. But to be honest with you, I'm really happy with the win. That was obviously the result that we were hoping to get. And, we're moving forward. We're moving forward, and we got, Arizona State on the road Saturday. So, it's all things forward.
All right. So I'm going to be positive, okay? I'm a glass half full person. Jaden Bradley, I think, is arguably the most underappreciated star this season. Great closer. What makes him, Tommy, such a good closer?
Man, he delivers. He delivers and he's reliable in those moments. And it's a credit to Jaden. One of the things that he's had a good year. Our team's having a good year, but one of the things that I don't think has been talked about with him is just how much he's improved over the course of his college career. And he deserves a ton of credit for that. This was a kid who, was highly rated, goes to Alabama, transfers here, felt like he needed a change of environment. And, I don't think it was anything malicious or nothing wrong. He just kind of wanted to reset, and then he got here, and we had a lot of work to do, and he put in the work, and he's gotten better. And I think it's just a great story of what college basketball is about. Is everyone's talking about these great freshmen, and they're tremendous. Don't get me wrong, but there's other stories that can be told. And you have a senior like him, and I know the Fierce kid at Michigan State's having that kind of year. I'm sure there's probably a couple other people who, the Lipsy kid at Iowa State, no one would trade their guy. Braden Smith. Come on. Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't want to leave anybody out, so I shouldn't have mentioned any names, but there's a lot of those guys out there, and they're what makes college basketball great. And, and JB is, he's put himself in that stratosphere, and it's well-deserved.
I'm going to give you another one that you can sing the praises of as well. Truly one of my favorite players in college basketball is Tobe Awaka. Here's a big guy, played his first 2 years at Tennessee, transfers to Arizona, so now you've got him for the second year. Could start just about anywhere, comes off the bench for you. He averages, I'll say, only 21 minutes a game. How about almost 10 rebounds a game? Leads the country on Ken Palm in offensive rebound percentage, top 20 defensive rebound percentage. What is it about Tobe Awaka that is such a great fit for Arizona, and why is this working when he could be starting in so many other places?
Well, he's an effort-based player, and we're an effort-based program. And, and we're always going to reward max effort and physicality. And those are two attributes, that come naturally for him. He's another guy that's really improved over the course of his college career. Obviously, he's played in, two really good programs. At Tennessee, we played him his freshman year, I think. They played here, and, there was this Awaka kid that was in the game, and I'm like, man, why are they playing him? They have all these other big-time recruits and all this and that, and I didn't know him. But there was like a rebound, like there were 3 or 4 guys who went for it, and a couple of our big guys who were good players and a couple of their big guys, and everyone like fell to the floor, and there's this 6'8" freshman kid that had the ball, and I'm like, so you knew what he had right away. And obviously Coach Barnes saw it. And we've got the polished, more experienced version of Tobe, and he's really, really come a long ways as a basketball player. And this is a guy that I think is going to have a really long career. He's durable. He's tough. He's an everyday guy. He's a 100th percentile character. And the story about the starting deal is easy. He came to us, and at the start of the year, and was kind of, was with one of our assistants, Jack Murphy, and was wondering what we were going to do with the starting lineup. And Jack said didn't quite know yet, and he said, well, I think Krivas should start. He sat out last year, and he's worked really hard, and he's really come a long ways. And I think that would be a good confidence boost for him. And Koa, I think Koa should start too. He's a big time freshman who is going to have all this pressure on him, and he's never not started. And never not played that prominent role. I think it'll be good for his confidence to do that. And I have experience coming off the bench and doing those things. So when you have players like that in your program, I think it bodes well to have successful.
Tommy, we've talked obviously a lot about your USA basketball experience, but for this audience, and I do a lot of games with Grant Hill, who's the general manager, the head of USA basketball for the men's national team. We're talking this week about this class and what people saw this past summer that maybe didn't get national headlines. And now we're seeing the fruits of that international basketball competition. You won the gold medal in that same game against Germany, by the way. Hannes Steinbach from Washington, he's having a great year. Oh, and by the way, Christian Anderson in your league, who's arguably one of the best point guards in the country. What is it about the U19, U18 international basketball in these summers that really can translate into men's college basketball?
No, you're right. And then, we even have one, Ivan Karchinkov. Ivan was a mainstay in that German team, but he wasn't able to play because his, he was playing Bayern Munich, and they were playing in their country's professional league finals. So he wasn't able to play. So another guy, what I think it is I think when you are able to take that next step and compete, in like the FIBA for USA basketball, U18s, U19s, you really expose yourself. In multiple senses, you expose yourself, and there's a chance you can get cut. And there's really good freshmen in college basketball right now that got cut from those past couple teams, that I was able to coach. And two things can be true. They're going to be great players in the future, but maybe they weren't the best fit for that team, or there was other guys that were just more physically ready, or whatever it may be, because we're not trying to pick the 12 best prospects when you pick a USA team. You're trying to pick the best team to go win the tournament. And so sometimes you have to evaluate, your players 10, 11, and 12, are they going to be able to handle not playing much? You literally have to, are they going to rock the boat, and is it going to be, a catastrophic event if they don't play? And so then, they could test your team's culture and, your team's, vibe a little bit. So I think that's one thing you get exposed there. And I think the other thing you get exposed to is how to compete at the highest level with other good players. And I think that's really, really important. You're looking at a lot of these freshmen that are having great years. They're on really good teams, and they're playing with other really good players. And I think that's really, really important to do that. And you're playing in pressure situations. I know this: when you coach USA basketball, there's one acceptable outcome, and and you're not usually. You don't want to coach and just be outcome driven, but I understand why it is with USA basketball. We take a lot of pride, and those guys have really rebuilt our national program, to be prominent and strong, and honestly, to be more kind of starting to be more like a development program rather than just an all-star event. And I'm really impressed with USA basketball, and they know if they ever want me to participate in anything, they just need to call, because it's an honor to be around and do anything.
All right, real quick, Tommy, maybe this won't be a quick answer, but in the international world, you've been recruiting this for decades. And over the last 5 years, it's changed where international players who have played professionally can now play in men's college basketball. It used to be a big issue where they couldn't. What are your thoughts on that rule change within the last couple of years?
Well, I honestly think the rule change has been the last year, where it's been that significant, and I mean, I think it's good. I mean, to me, it should be way more age based than age and education based rather than back in the day, it literally used to be if you played on a team, if you're an amateur player and you played on a team where one of the players was getting paid, you were ineligible. I mean, think about that going back, 25 years ago. So we've come a long way, and so I think it's a good thing. I think, hey, we're in that really crazy stage right now where everyone's trying to figure everything out. And then, we're an opportunistic society. So there's always those people that are waiting in the fringes and are going to kind of throw the next crazy idea against the wall. Like, do you think this guy can be eligible? And then they have these 8 things and then, well, what? They're eligible. So like, we just got to kind of work ourselves through that. And eventually we're going to end up in a stable place. We're just, it's a little chaotic right now. And for sure, when I first saw this happening, I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, here we are having this great year. We didn't do really any of this stuff, and we didn't try to bring anybody in a semester or anything like that. And and we're having this great year, ultimately, is this going to diminish the strength of our team compared to our opponents? And then I just took a deep breath and said, you know what? Like, no, it's not. Just stay locked into your group and usually desperation and chaos isn't a good solution. So I just want to stay steady in a chaotic environment and then, hopefully it'll work itself out here in the next few months.
Well, it's hard to manage it much better than winning every game that you've played. So I know that's probably at some point you may have a loss or two, but it's been a great season. Your team is so much fun to watch. Best of luck against the Sun Devils this weekend, Tommy. And thanks for joining us here on the Hoops HQ show. I'm sure it was as much of a thrill for you as it was for me and Andy.
Oh, well, this is life-changing. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tommy.
Right. Good luck. Bear down. We'll be right back after this.